Hello and welcome to Thought Leader Talks, a monthly chat with tech gurus, platform SMEs, and cybersecurity experts. In this month's session, we chat with Szymon Bochniak, founder of the popular Office 365 at Work blog. He has over 13 years of experience working with Microsoft technologies as a SharePoint solutions architect and an Office 365 service delivery manager. Szymon currently manages a team of 35 plus Office 365 consultants, helping organizations solve their business challenges using Microsoft 365. Welcome, Szymon.
Welcome, and thank you for having me.
Likewise. Let's start by talking about Microsoft Teams, the hottest product on the block. It has witnessed a huge surge in adoption to 115 million users, driven by the en masse shift to the remote workforce. In the course of your implementation and customization of Teams, what are some of the valuable hidden features in Microsoft Teams that you've used to enhance distributed team collaboration?
I think we can tell that almost everyone working on Teams right now. So especially from perspective of organization working on Microsoft technologies.
Right.
But what you can see when we dig in details from perspective of how people use Teams after the rollout of that application, almost 80% of users using Teams strongly based on very basic communications like chats, meetings, calls.
Right.
But not using that for the collaboration part. So about 40% of the users doing collaboration based on Teams with other people. So these numbers are not great, I would say. And from my perspective, what I can tell that if you're working on the adoption process, putting the focus and from perspective of trainings and also sharing the knowledge with the Teams users should be done on perspective of collaboration, especially working on documents. There are a lot of SharePoint-based great features like co-authoring, like versioning, taking control of how the documents are proceed, approvals processes that you can implement very quickly. And these are the things that will bring people from using Teams in the communication part to the more advanced collaboration with other people. Another thing which is also very useful, it's very easy to add applications, custom applications to the Teams prepared in the organization. If you already have almost 100% of people using Teams in your company, it's very easy to navigate them from that perspective to other apps. It could be ServiceNow, it could be Salesforce, it could be SharePoint-based intranet, maybe Yammer. Junior developer could build that kind of application in less than 2 hours. And you can add that kind of app on the left navigation Teams. So it's very easy to be done, and it could bring additional value for the company, not only to use Teams, but also navigates people from Teams to other apps in the organization. So if I recommend things, these are these two things that I would focus on from perspective of Teams.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, on the flip side, Mcafee reported a 199% increase in Office-targeted malware last year. What would your suggestions be for Microsoft 365 security best practices for the enterprise?
Yeah, security from perspective of the cloud is challenging, and we can assume that business users will be always some kind of weak point from perspective of security. There will be no always possibility to train them on the very high level, but still there are the things that you can immediately implement in Office 365 and which are present by design. So you don't have to buy third-party products to do that. One of the things that I always recommend to start with is to implement multi-factor authentication. So something which is present in every license, every subscription in Office 365, and it gives additional layer of security. If there will be a leak of password of the username, there will be always second layer of the security that will help to defend any kind of attack that could be connected with that. The second thing is to implement very strongly some kind of auditing solutions based on security and compliance features that are also present there. If there will be any kind of suspicious communication, suspicion attacks from locations that are not connected with your company, it is the first place when you can locate that, and you can automatically get some kind of notifications about suspicious traffic network or something like that. And this is something that could be very easily implemented, and
Okay.
very basic two very basic functionalities could help you to improve the security level of your company.
Okay. That's interesting. Moving on to migration, which is another topic of concern for organizations. If migrating from one SaaS platform to another, if not done rightly, can actually eat into any expected ROI. What are some of the challenges that organizations encounter when migrating to of Microsoft 365 and SharePoint?
I think the biggest challenge is that many times decisions are done based on the cost perspective. So
Okay.
we're switching from on-premise or different SaaS platform to the Microsoft 365. And I would say starting point is calculation of the possible savings in the organization. And this is fair, but
Right.
still it's missing a little business perspective of the business users, because
Okay.
there's never a situation that there's migration from platform one to one. There will be always some kind of differences in compatibilities between two
Right.
platforms,
Right.
and involvement of the business will be needed to make it successful. And also from perspective of the IT, it could
Okay.
deliver much more efficiency from perspective of the decisions like what should be migrated, what not, and
Okay.
maybe where we can cut very old and unused data by anyone. But it's very difficult to make that kind of decisions without the business side.
Right.
So from my perspective, this is some kind of, and this is very not technical challenge. This is something that is more about the culture of the organization, to not only focus on the technical aspect of that kind of migration, but also to involve business to that part. And the second thing, more technical, is to prepare really good architecture before the migration, because this is something, and if this will be done before the migration will start, this could really save a lot of work during the migration, because it will prepare proper setup for the final destination of the data.
Do your groundwork well.
That's correct.
Okay. And now the new Microsoft 365, the new rebranded Microsoft 365, many would say is Office 365 tailored for the remote economy. What are some of the new features that are especially helpful for the distributed or hybrid workforce of today?
This is something very, I would say, on time right now. Microsoft,
Right.
since beginning of this year, promoting the new products, Viva line of products that will came up to Office 365. And most of these applications are focused on the well-being of the employees. So again, something less technical, but very important from perspective of working in the different locations, separated, not in the office, how
Right.
to help people to work efficient way, but also to take care about their well-being. It's very difficult to be very productive if you doesn't feel well. And
That's
applications like online trainings, like promoting the time management from perspective of the meetings. These are the applications that Viva apps,
okay.
which will be provided to Office 365, will deliver.
Okay.
Something totally new, and I think
Okay.
something very important from perspective of the next years.
Okay. Okay. And moving on to data protection, what are your thoughts on Microsoft 365 and SharePoint data protection as far as backup goes? Do you think it's required?
I'm a big fan of moving out from backup when you're moving to the cloud from on-premise environment. This is also one of the reasons to cut that kind of costs. But at
Right.
the same time, realistically, it will not be possible to get rid of any kind of backup solution when you're moving your data to Office 365.
Okay.
There are the features like will help you to retain data after the user will in purpose or by mistake delete it. But
Right.
still, this is totally not the approach that will secure you in very important elements when you have very critical data, maybe audited data,
Right.
maybe validated data on your environment.
True.
In such cases, it is also clearly stated by Microsoft in the service agreement for Office 365, company needs to provide the backup solution to secure that kind of areas.
Okay.
And again, if there will be business need, business requirement to
Right.
be possible to restore the data from some point in time,
Right.
there's no feature like that in Office 365 to secure that kind of business requirement. So if
Okay.
there is a part of the data stored on Office 365 that will requires that, there will be need to deploy some kind of third-party backup solution to address that.
That's true. And how do you think, the native options go, such as retention policies, e-discovery, litigation hold? How do they suffice as far as backup and
Mhm.
recovery goes?
These features are also very useful from
Right,
perspective of the securing very easy way to restore data lost for
right,
some unexpected reasons.
right,
But at the same time, the functionality is a little different. You can restore something that is deleted by the user. You can retain that data for some period of time,
right,
but it's totally different approach than having possibility to restore data from some point in time in specific version, in specific expectation from the business side.
point in time
Another,
recovery.
exactly. And one more thing, retaining of the data is limited in time. So you will not be able to, basic setup like for SharePoint is 90 days. So
Right,
if you want to restore something from half of year, it will be very difficult to do that. And again,
right,
holding everything in the retention
that's
policies
true.
for the unlimited period of time will also grow extremely the volume of the data that you will store on Office 365. I will split that kind of elements to two factors. One,
Okay,
using retain policies to
okay,
restore the data in short period of time, mostly
okay,
for the business requirements in very simple cases.
right,
If there is a need for very specific security of the data, critical data that need to be restored,
right,
secured,
yeah,
uh, the backup solution need to be in place.
okay, okay, that sounds fair. Um, Another hot topic in the cybersecurity spectrum is data privacy. So data privacy by design is growing in importance. It's demanded both by the digital savvy customer and compliance regulations such as the GDPR. What inbuilt provisions does Office 365 come with to facilitate privacy by design?
Yeah, Microsoft providing privacy by design, but also by default. So this is the
Okay,
strategy here, that to be sure that there will be the features implemented in place that
okay,
company which would like to implement GDPR processes can use inside that kind of processes.
okay,
And to be fair, most of that kind of features were not present in the old on-premise versions of these applications like SharePoint or Exchange. So
right,
this is something totally different, more advanced, and it is by design implemented in Office 365. Few elements that it's worth to know that are there present, like all connections for the web-based applications are encrypted. Something that many
okay,
times in the on-premise local data centers is not implemented.
that's true.
But today we see how important it is to encrypt all communication based on the internet connections.
Okay,
On the other hand, retention, we talked that retention could help us to restore data, but at the same time, we can use that kind of policies to limit the time, how long we want to store the data. So if we have package of the data, we can use retention policies to tell, okay, we're storing that data for 3 years and no more. After that period of time, we have to clean it up because this is our legal requirements from perspective of how we can retain the data and how long we can, from legal perspective, can store
right,
it. And this is something totally not present in old on-premise approach,
okay.
which could be very useful. And implementation of such approach from SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams is very easy and is present by design.
That's great to know. Thank you, Szymon, for your practical and helpful insights.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is Teresa signing off till our next chat with a thought leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much.